Hello everyone, welcome to Narayana IAS Academy. My name is Shubham Sagar and in today's daily news analysis we'll be taking 5 articles of Hindu and Indian Express combined. If we talk about the first article of the day, which is on Indian Express page number 8 and it is also on Hindu page number 12, Madrasas unsuitable for proper education. Who is talking about it? NCPCR. Here we'll also understand the linkage of Article 28 of Indian Constitution. Why NCPCR is saying this about madrasa, we have to understand this in detail. If we talk about the second article of the day, which is on Indian Express page number 17, controversy over Mumbai salt pans. What are salt pans? Why are Mumbai salt pans in danger? What is the use of these salt pans? We'll talk about this. If we talk about the third article of the day, which is on Indian Express page number 1, health insurance cover for all 70 years and above. And this is also covered in Hindu. So this is actually a very revolutionary step. And here we'll also try to understand the expansion of Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. If we talk about the fourth article of the day, which is on Hindu Science page number 2, and here we'll be talking about Bio E3 policy and how it is going to revolutionize the biotechnology sector in India. If we talk about the last article of the day, which is on Hindu page number 7, India Sickle Cell Challenge. What is the sickle cell disease? What are different types of sickle cell disease? What is the prevalence of SCD in India, that is sickle cell disease in India? We'll be trying to understand that via this article. Once we are done with these 5 articles, we'll solve 5 prelims and 1 means practice question, because practice makes a man as well as a woman perfect. So let's get started. If we talk about the first article of the day, madrasas unsuitable for proper education, and child rights body NCPR is saying this to Supreme Court. Now we have to, this is like a story and we are in the mid of a story. Why this whole thing is happening? Why NCPCR has to say this to Supreme Court? What is the context behind it? And what justification or what points they are citing to prove that madrasas are unsuitable for proper education? All these things we should understand once we are done with this particular article. So, previous year questions related to customs, traditions, how they suppress reason has been asked by UPSC, and we should be ready for more such questions, right? And here, this particular question is related to Indian society, social justice, plus judiciary is also coming into picture, plus statutory body NCPCR is also coming under picture right now. And this NCPCR comes under which ministry? That is also a point of consideration which we should be keeping in mind, right? So National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, NCPCR, submitted to Supreme Court that madrasas are unsuitable or unfit. Please understand this. Once we are done with this article, you will understand what is madrasa, what is the primary madrasa, secondary madrasa, and then do they come under Right to Education Act? If you know this, you can post it in the comment section. Do or does madrasa come under Right to Education Act or not? Right to Education Act implements which particular article of Indian Constitution? Again, if you know it, you can post it in the comment section. So these are some questions which we should know, right? So they are saying, NCPCR is saying, what is NCPCR? We'll talk about it in detail few moments from now. That no, madrasas are not suitable even if they're including few NCERT books. That does not make them like hunky-dory for education. Everything is not going fine there. We don't have much idea about their funding. It is very opaque. How they are electing their teachers, we don't know. And mainly, they are promoting or preaching supremacy of Islam. Even that would have been right, but the other things are not right. Although they are not covered under RTE, Right to Education, but many things are missing. Basic things are missing. Midday meals, etc. are missing. So do we need to bring madrasas under RTE? That is also a question to ponder upon. So NCPCR raised concern about curriculum, teacher qualification, opaque funding, violation of land laws, and lack of a holistic environment for students in madrasas. Now, they are also saying that Darul Uloom Deoband Madrasa, which is in Uttar Pradesh, they have or influenced Taliban to a great extent. And all these points are cited by NCPCR to point out the fact that madrasas are not providing, holistic education. So challenge, and why this whole thing is happening? Why NCPCR is saying all these things? So there is a context behind it. And what is the context? Allahabad High Court has declared Uttar Pradesh Board of Madrasa Education Act unconstitutional because they said that it was violating secularism, it was violating right to equality under Article 14. But Supreme Court has stayed this Allahabad High Court decision till the time they have made a judgment. And that's why Supreme Court is hearing the appeal which was made against this Allahabad High Court judgment. And now NCPCR is putting forward point that yes, whatever Allahabad High Court did when they said that Uttar Pradesh Board of Madrasa Education Act was unconstitutional, that was not at all wrong. And in a way, NCPCR is supporting the points made by Allahabad High Court. Hope you're understanding this. So submission is a part of Supreme Court case regarding appeals challenging the Allahabad High Court judgment, where they have in a way repealed this Uttar Pradesh Board of Madrasa Education Act. Now, what is a madrasa? Basic things, basic points we should know, right? So madrasa is Islamic educational institution which talks about their religion, which talks about religious instruction, which talks about protecting the core tenets of Islam, which talks about Quran, Hadith, teachings and practices of Prophet Muhammad, all these things. All these things are fine, but then again, too much extremism should not be involved here. That's what NCPCR is also saying. Other areas should also be covered apart from religious education, where madrasas are lacking according to NCPCR. So these institutions have historically played a significant role in preserving and transmitting Islamic knowledge. Now, types of madrasas, primary and higher madrasas. So focus on basic Islamic education, where they're teaching children the core of Quran and Hadith and prayers. So that is primary madrasa. When you have or you are being taught Islamic jurisprudence, all these things, so that you can become a scholar, you can become an imam or mufti, then that is part of higher madrasa. Hope you understood this. And in many countries, like in India, madrasas are outside the ambit of Right to Education Act. Please remember that this is actually important. So in many countries, madrasas operate independently of formal education system, because of which debate like this happens. Currently, NCPCR is saying all these things because in India also, madrasa operate independently of formal education system. So they are saying that in India also, madrasas are exempted from Right to Education Act. When was Right to Education Act passed? 2005, 2009? Posted in the comment section. When was Right to Education, Right to Information Act passed? Again, if you know it, post it in the comment section. Now, let's talk about NCPCR, which is in the center of this particular debate. So it is a statutory body. What is a statutory body? Which has been established by an act of parliament. What is a constitutional body? Which has been mentioned in Indian Constitution. So NCPCR is a statutory body because it has been formed by an act of parliament, which is Protection of Child Rights Act 2005. Do remember, it has not been created due to right to education. It has been created due to Protection of Child Rights Act 2005. And it operates under, sometimes they ask the nodal ministry, Ministry of Women and Child Development. And what is the basic criteria? What is the basic function of NCPCR? Promote, protect, safeguard children's rights in the country and ensure that all laws and policies are in adherence to the they are adhering to the principle of child rights enshrined in Indian Constitution as well as UNCRC, United Nations Convention on Rights of the Child. Please remember, in the previous slide, just remember NCPCR, which kind of body it is, statutory body. What is the act related to NCPCR? Under which ministry it comes? All these are important points. Then, if we talk more about this particular news, they are saying that madrasas are unsuitable for imparting proper education, because they are functioning in an arbitrary way. We have talked about it. Opaque funding, how teachers are elected, we don't know, or selected rather. NCPCR also argues that RTE Act, we are continuously saying that RTE Act does not cover madrasas. But even then we have Article 21A, which is about right to free and compulsory education of children from 6 to 14 years. So they are saying that some attributes of Article 21A has to be applied to madrasas. Madrasas are not having proper access to elementary education. They are not having midday meals, not proper uniform, not proper trained teachers. So again, something is missing there. That's what NCPCR is saying. And again, Commission is highlighting that children from other religion, especially in madrasas of Bihar, MP, West Bengal, UP, etc., they also study there. And if you keep on teaching only religious instructions, that will violate Article 28, Clause 3 of Indian Constitution, which prohibits forced religious instructions for non-Muslims. You cannot give them the religious instructions to people who are not of the Muslim demography. So again, Article 28, Clause 3 is also getting violated. According to NCPCR, when you are giving religious instructions to, or Islamic religious instructions to non-Muslim people or children. So that is the basic point. Article 28, Clause 3, do remember it. So what is the conclusion here? Madrasas are institutions with a long history of religious and academic education. But we need to balance madrasas with formal education. And that is what NCPCR is also stressing about. So while they remain important for religious instruction, debates about their modernization and integration with formal education system continue in many countries. And India is no exception to that. We are having such talk in our country as well. And this particular article was about one of such talks, right? If we talk about the second article of the day, very interesting article, and there are many attributes here which we should know about. Salt pan. What is salt pan? Why salt pans are actually important, as they have given certain headings. Basically what happens, Indian Express explained section is one of the best sections you can witness in either of the two articles, that is Hindu or Indian Express. And generally people, they have a debate, Hindu or Indian Express, which is better. So Hindu in general has more nuanced articles, but Indian Express explained section is very, very good. And this particular article has been taken from one of those explained section. So we'll talk about salt pan. What is salt pan? Why is it needed? What is the ecological significance of salt pan? What is this controversy all about? All these things we have to discuss in this particular article. Questions, and here we'll also talk about coastal regulation zone. What is CRZ? What are different zonings under CRZ, coastal regulation zone? What are the issues which are there? What things are permitted? What things are not permitted inside these zones? We should be knowing about it. So what is the context here? Centre approved the transfer of 256 acres of Mumbai salt pan land to Dharavi Redevelopment Project Private Limited. This is just a factual information. You don't need to mug it up. Please understand. So as we have talked about, Mumbai, crowded area, super crowded. Most of the spaces, most of the lands are already occupied. This particular salt pan is one of the last unoccupied regions, and different forces are trying or vying to occupy this particular space. And hope you are understanding this. So there is also a debate among environmentalists that we are having a competition, environmental conservation versus economic development. All these issues are coming to the fore, right? So now let's come back to the issue. So 256 acre has been transferred to DRPPL. And what is DRPPL? It is a joint venture between Adani Realty Group and Maharashtra government. Again, there will be some political connotation in this article. We are not going there. We have to understand what is the issue all about. So some amount of work will be done in these salt pans, right? And what is that work? Rental housing will be done for slum dwellers. But environmentalists are saying that these salt pans, they also play a crucial role in mitigating the impact of floods in Mumbai areas. So they are saying that once you start doing all these rental housing in these salt pans, the impact of floods will be more pronounced in Mumbai. And this is in no way promoting environmental conservation. So again, hope you are understanding the context here, why salt pans are in use. So first of all, what are these salt pan lands? Low-lying areas where seawater enters, and when seawater enters, along with that, salt and minerals also come, and these salt and minerals are later used to make salt, as the name suggests. So these lands, they are also playing a crucial role along with mangroves. They help Mumbai or protect Mumbai from flooding. So if you encroach on these lands, if you make houses on this land, then what will happen? The impact of flood will be more pronounced in Mumbai. Hope you're understanding this. And they are classified under CRZ1B. Again, a pointer. What is CRZ1B? Coastal Regulation Zone 1B. We'll come back to this slide. First of all, let's look at Coastal Regulation Zone. So what is Coastal Regulation Zone? As the name suggests, Government of India wants to regulate human activities along coastal areas because we want to preserve ecosystem. We want to protect our environment, vulnerable environment. And to do that, we have this regulation zone where we have different, again, zones, CRZ1 to 4. And even in CRZ1, we'll have CRZ1A, 1B. So we'll go into that particular demarcation as well. So if we talk about CRZ introduced in 1991, under which act? All these acts are very important because if you remember, we talked about NBWL. There was an article, I think, Pratik covered yesterday in his DNA. NBWL under WPA 1972, Wildlife Protection Act. Similarly, please remember this, that coastal regulation zone are framed under Environmental Protection Act of 1986. We should be knowing this. Now, there are different zones. So, you can understand this. CRZ1 will have maximum restrictions. CRZ4, minimum amount of restrictions. Plus, there are other classification also. So, CRZ1, ecologically sensitive areas, mangroves, coral reefs, dunes, salt marshes, all will be there in CRZ1. Salt marshes, salt pans. So, again, salt pan will also be there in CRZ1. And in this also CRZ1A and 1B. That means 1A, extremely ecologically sensitive. So, more restrictions. 1B, somewhat lesser restrictions, like you can even extract salt out of it and all those things. So, CRZ2, developed areas. Here, we are talking about areas which are near urban or municipal regions, densely populated areas. CRZ3, rural areas. CRZ4, coastal areas or water areas, which are very, very close to the coastal waters. So, hope you somewhat understood this classification. And now, let's come back. So, hope you understood CRZ1B. So, we talked about CRZ1, mangrove areas and all those salt pans are there. And 1B means they have lesser restrictions compared to CRZ1A. And here you can do salt extraction and natural gas exploration. Now, if we talk about the extent of salt pan lands, so there are some facts and figures here. You don't need to remember each and every fact and figure. Just remember this thing. If we talk about nationally, 60,000 acres of salt pan land exist. And which state has maximum amount of salt pan land? Andhra Pradesh. Please remember this. They can directly ask you, which among the following state has highest area under salt pan land? So please remember this. Impact on flora fauna. So again, just like when we talk about mangroves, similarly salt pans, what they are doing, they're actually a transition zone between aquatic ecosystem and terrestrial ecosystem. So they are home to birds and insects, and development threatens these local biodiversity, these unique flora and fauna, which is, it's like an ecological niche or ecotone. If you know the difference or what is ecotone and ecological niche, you can post it in the comment section. So there is a very wide variety of flora and fauna you can find when you are meeting the intersection zone of terrestrial ecosystem and aquatic ecosystem. And that is, one of that is, like those ecosystem is salt pan as well. So environmentalists also raise concern about the quality of life for relocated slum dwellers in flood prone areas. So people who will be living in these salt pan lands, when the housing will be done, they will be more prone to flooding, right? Because hope you understood what we discussed earlier. Mangrove, salt pan lands, what they are doing, they are mitigating the impact of flood in the mainland Mumbai. But when you're living in those areas, you will be highly vulnerable to flood because you will be the first one who will be encountering flood. So all these things have to be kept in mind. So coastal regulation zone, we have talked about it. Please remember, under which act coastal regulation zone has been created? EPA 1986. NBWL, which was done in the yesterday DNA, that was created under WPA 1972 if I'm not wrong. How many zones are there? 4 zones, CRZ 1, 2, 3, 4. And do remember, 1 is ecologically sensitive areas, very sensitive areas, mangrove, salt pan. Then 2 developed areas, 3 rural areas, and 4th is water areas. And then there are certain other demarcations here also. You don't need to remember all these sub-demarcation points. Please remember the broad points, they are very important. And then CRZ will come again in different articles also. So you will read them multiple times and things will get etched in your memory. More about the news. So salt pans are among the last undeveloped lands in Mumbai. That's what we have talked about earlier. Governments have sought to acquire these lands for affordable housing and slum rehabilitation projects, citing the need for more space. And environmental concerns, we can understand this now, that developing salt pan lands will lead to flooding in Mumbai's eastern suburbs because they were reducing or minimizing the impact of floods. Now they will not do that because houses will be built on them, as these areas act as natural flood retention zone, just like mangroves. And this is concerning because Mumbai is prone to flood, and these salt pan lands played a crucial role in mitigating the impact of 2005 floods. That's what this author is talking about. So we should be very wary about what we are doing with these salt pan lands of Mumbai. And yes, different governments, different stakeholders have to come together and think more about this particularly sensitive issue. If we talk about the third article of the day, and it's a very, very optimistic and very good news for all of us, especially for people who are 70 years and above. So what has happened? Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. And earlier there were caveats that who will get the benefit of 5 lakh for secondary and tertiary healthcare, and socioeconomic caste census was used. But now it has been made applicable for all the people who are aged 70 years and above. So there is no restriction as such that you have to belong to this particular criteria or something. If you are aged 70 years and above, you will be a part of Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. But there are certain buts, we'll talk about that if you're a part of CGHS, then what will happen to you? So all those buts and caveats, we'll talk about it in just few moments from now. So Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana is in picture here, is the central focal theme of this article. But UPSC has already asked questions related to different yojanas and scheme like Jan Dhan Yojana. So they have asked on Jan Dhan Yojana, they can ask you on Jan Arogya Yojana as well. What is the context here? Union Cabinet of India has recently expanded Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. Government can think about reducing the name of it. It's a little bit lengthy for UPSC aspirants. Jokes apart, please understand this. Ayushman Bharat scheme or Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, they are same. So earlier, what we have discussed, there were certain criteria who can be a part of it. Now, all the people who are aged 70 years and above, they can avail rupees 5 lakh. It's not for primary healthcare, it's for secondary and tertiary healthcare rather. And in the previous DNAs, we have talked about it. What is primary healthcare? What is secondary healthcare? What is tertiary healthcare? Your first point of contact when we are ill. That is primary health care. And let's say that particular doctor refers you to AIMS, or let's say any hospital in West Bengal, that will be your secondary health care. And if that particular hospital in West Bengal refers you to AIMS Delhi will be your tertiary health care. So secondary and tertiary will be applicable for Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. It is not applicable for primary health care. Again, so now what will happen when all the people ages 70 years and above will be coming under the ambit of Ayushman Bharat, then so it is said that it will benefit around 6 crore additional beneficiaries from 4.5 crore families. And this is actually a very great step towards universal health care. Whoever you are, you cannot find anything bad about this particular step of government, and it should be welcome. So this step of government is a step towards universal health care, and doesn't matter which political domain you belong to, you cannot criticize this particular move. It has to be appreciated by all fronts coming together. So now, about Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, what is this scheme all about? Like, there is another Yojana which you should know about, Janani Suraksha Yojana, which is world's largest institutional delivery mechanism. Earlier, what used to happen? Women, generally, they used to give birth in their home. Many child used to die. Sometimes women used to die. To prevent that, we had Janani Suraksha Yojana. If you know when was Janani Suraksha Yojana rather launched, you can post it in the comment section. It is world's largest institutional delivery mechanism. Similarly, this Ayushman Bharat scheme, this is world's largest health insurance scheme. Please remember this. And world's largest, it is not about India, world's largest health insurance scheme, because it is covering such a large population, right? And sum insured is 5 crore per family per year, covering secondary and tertiary care. This is a keyword, you cannot miss it. This is a you can give a 2-star or 3-star. Generally, what happens when we make notes, we give some star, 2-star, 3-star, 1-star. So this is a point which deserves maximum star, secondary and tertiary healthcare. Health benefit packages. Generally, what happens when you go for dental implants, etc., they are not covered in most of the insurance. Here, what are the things which are covered? Surgery is covered, medical daycare treatments, all these things are covered. Most of the things which are of very, which can make you go down or below the poverty line, maximum of these things are covered, like surgery, medical daycare treatments, etc. Now, who are the beneficiaries? Socioeconomic caste census is done, and based on that, the vulnerable category people are included here. But now we know all the people aged 70 years and above, they'll be included in Ayushman Bharat scheme. Funding structure, centrally sponsored scheme, central sector scheme. Again, we have talked about it earlier also. Centrally sponsored scheme means some money will come from center, some money will come from state. Central sector scheme, all the money will come from center. So this is a centrally sponsored scheme. 60-40 ratio is there for most of the states. But if you're a special category status state, you are vulnerable in more ways than one. Like, let's say, Jammu Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, northeastern states, then 90-10 ratio. UT, Union Territories, 100% will be given by central government. Remember this, these kind of factual points can be asked in exam. And who will be looking or overseeing the implementation of Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana? Very long name. That will be done by National Health Authority. When we are talking about at the central level and at the state level, State Health Agency is there. So again, you can forget this part. Not so important, but still keep it in mind somewhere behind. Just remember all those points. It is a centrally sponsored scheme. Prime means it is not applicable for primary healthcare, secondary and tertiary healthcare. All these are important points. Then enhancement. What has happened? So this news, what they are doing, they are extending it to all person aged 70 and above. But, what is the exception here? Let's say you are already a senior citizen covered under CGHS, Central Government Health Scheme, and ECHS, that is related to ex-servicemen. So in that scenario, you can opt. You can opt for either CGHS or Jan Arogya Yojana, ECHS or Jan Arogya Yojana. So let's say if you opt for Jan Arogya Yojana, you will get additional 5 lakh cover because you have opted for this and you have skipped from CGHS and ECHS. So CGHS, Central Government Health Scheme, comprehensive healthcare services to current and retired central government employees. ECHS, ex-servicemen, healthcare facility to ex-servicemen of Indian Armed Forces and their dependents. Please understand this. They can ask you, what is the difference between CGHS and ECHS? What is the full form of ECHS? If you know it, you can post it in the comment section. And again, all these things, they are saying that let's say you have multiple people in the family who are aged 70 years and above. So you have a 5 lakh cap for secondary and tertiary healthcare that can be shared between you people who are 70 years and above. Demographic relevance of it. See, it is said that India has a very high population in the young age, but currently we are talking about, but 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the line, what will happen? This young population will age. And that's what this article is saying. That what will happen? The population of those aged 60 and above will triple by 2050 because you are young now. We cannot be young forever unless some like revolutionary things happen in science and tech. So we will get old and that number will increase by 2050 and that number will triple by 2050. And this particular scheme is going to play a crucial role in taking care of those vulnerable people who will be aged 70 years and above. If we talk about the fourth article of the day, so organ-on-chip technology could boost Bio-E3 objective to personalized medicine. Now, when you read this heading, you feel like, oh my God, so many technical terms here. The most important term which we have to focus on here is Bio-E3. Why we have to focus on Bio-E3? Because it's a government policy on biotechnology. And it's a new government policy announced in August. That is August 2024. So we should know about what is Bio-E3? Why is it in news? What is the implication of Bio-E3? So we should be knowing about it because biotechnology is explicitly written in our syllabus. So we should be knowing about biotechnology, right? So again, questions related to biotechnology has been asked by UPSC and they will keep on asking it because it is explicitly mentioned in your syllabus. How? Explicitly. So what is the context here? Bio-E3 policy launched by the government of India was introduced against a backdrop of global challenges. So what are the global challenges which we are talking about here? Climate change, environmental degradation, need for sustainable growth. We have SDGs, 17 goals, 169 targets to be achieved by 2030. Will we be able to achieve it just like that? No, we need to have some technological upgradation. And biotechnology is no exception to that. So all these things will have to be inculcated in a policy called Bio-E3 policy. So what is this E3? E3 is, B is, or bio is biotechnology. First E is economy, second is environment, and third is employment. So synergy will happen. What we are trying to do? We are trying to integrate biotechnology, engineering, and digital technologies because once you're integrating these things, then only you can get a holistic solution to different kind of problems, which has multiple dimensions, right? So with biomanufacturing expected to generate like 2 to 4 trillion globally in the next decade, biomanufacturing, biotechnology is the need of the hour. If we talk about companies like Novartis, so many people who have done PhD in biotechnology field, they're working as scientists here. So yes, biotechnology is the present, will be the future, and yeah, we have to focus on this arena very minutely. So the policy position India to benefit from its shift towards sustainable production processes, and for that we need to focus on biotechnology, and for that government has launched this particular Bio-E3 policy. So Bio-E3, there are 6 priority areas. First, bio-based chemical and enzymes. What does bio-based means? That means you have to introduce some fungi, some bacteria, some chromosomes, some genes, means biologically induced changes has to be done in chemicals. Then smart proteins. Now again, pay attention to the keywords here. 6 priority areas are there. Fine. But here also we have to focus on the keyword. What is smart protein? What does it mean by when we are saying smart protein? So in general, there is normal source of protein, which is generally non-vegetarian sources, or which are generally non-vegetarian sources. Let's say chicken, egg. So these are normal proteins. Smart proteins are alternatives of these normal proteins, which are generally derived from vegetarian sources. So these are smart proteins. When we are looking for vegetarian source of protein, that is smart protein. Precision biotherapeutics. All these areas we are focusing on, and these are the priority areas. Please, hope you understood the term smart protein. Climate resilient agriculture. Generally what happens? In our Indian culture, we used to do flooding irrigation. Like we used to flood the rice field. That is not sustainable agriculture. That is not promoting, that is also not climate resilient agriculture, because once in one area you are doing flooding, other area is impacted by drought, like Marathwada region of, if we talk about Maharashtra. So yes, we have to focus on climate resilient agriculture. We have to focus on agricultural biotech to enhance crop yield. At the same time, we can focus on drip irrigation. We can focus on precision agriculture, right? Carbon capture and utilization. If you want to curb the menace of global warming, we have to capture the existing carbon present in the environment rather than adding more to it. Marine and space research. So all these are priority areas of Bio-E3. Please remember the name Bio-E3 and 3 E's. That is economy, environment and employment, because employment is a very big issue, especially in our country. And how we will be doing it? What are the enabling mechanisms? Bio-artificial intelligence hubs. So currently we are living in the era of 4th industrial revolution. Again, let's revise it. We have talked about it a lot in previous DNA videos. 4 industrial revolutions we have encountered up until now. The 4th industrial revolution is about like this ubiquitous computing, artificial intelligence. If you know this, the 3 previous artificial intelligence, or rather 3 previous industrial revolutions, were about what? If you know this, you can post it in the comment section. So artificial intelligence, we have to use it, and that will help us in enhancing the biological expertise as well as computational expertise. Biomanufacturing hubs, whatever we are learning from these artificial intelligence hubs, we have to incorporate it. We have to show something. We have to manufacture something, and that will be done in biomanufacturing hubs. And in this regard, see, this is Bio E3, no? So employment, environment, all these criteria are involved here. So integration of ministry is very important. Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Health, all these ministries have to come together, because this is not about a single component. This is not about employment only. This is not about environment only. Multiple entities, multiple domains are involved, and we cannot work in silos. Integration of ministries are, or that is the need of the hour when we talk about Bio E3. If we talk about the last article of the day, India's sickle cell challenge, sickle cell disease, sickle cell anemia, we'll talk about it. But there's a very interesting pattern here. Generally, these sickle cell disease, tribal people are getting impacted by it the most. What is the reason behind it? Why tribal people are getting impacted by sickle cell disease the most? That is a very interesting question. And once we are done with this article, you will understand it. And let me tell you right now only. So tribal areas, they were generally infested by malaria. So I'm just telling you a reason, scientific reason, why we generally witness sickle cell disease among tribal population. So many of these tribal populations earlier were like infected or sterilized to a certain extent by malaria. So the body developed genetic mutation, and that genetic mutation developed in the form of sickle cell disease, which was much less, you know, the symptoms were much lesser as compared to malaria. So in a way, the sickle cell disease developing among tribal was a reaction against malaria. I hope you're understanding it. And that's why we are witnessing major sickle cell cases among tribal population. So this is one of the very interesting aspect of this article. So questions related to Zika virus and diseases, they have been asked by UPSC in the past. So what is the context here? Sickle cell disease remains a formidable challenge in India, whereas burden is significant, particularly among tribal population. Now we know the reason why tribal populations are majorly impacted by sickle cell disease. Hope you're understanding it. Once we're done with this article, you will understand more about sickle cell disease. You will understand more about RBC versus WBC rather. What is red blood cell? What are like white blood cell? What is the function of red blood cell? So here, red blood cell, if we talk about RBCs, what they do? They carry oxygen from lung throughout the body, and that is necessary for our survival among other factors. Now, if we talk about WBCs, they are generally fighting fighting against rather diseases. So that is one of the major differences between RBC and WBC rather. So RBC, what they're doing? Supplying oxygen from lung to different parts of the body. WBC, white blood corpuscles, what they are doing? They are fighting against infections, right? So sickle cell disease, which is also known as sickle cell anemia, is a genetic disorder. Please understand this. And people, let's say my mother, she has sickle cell disease. My father, she has sickle cell disease. Then in that scenario, I have a very high probability of catching sickle cell anemia or sickle cell disease. So it's a genetic disorder. And now we also understand why it is impacting tribal people the most, because this genetic mutation happened in them to fight against malaria. So that affects hemoglobin, a protein in RBC, which carries oxygen through the body. Normally, RBCs are, now this is a very interesting phenomena. What happens in sickle cell disease? And there's a very fine image which can explain you the whole thing. So RBCs are disc-shaped, and that way they can easily move through the blood vessels. Now let's look at this map. So RBC, they're disc-shaped and they're easily moving throughout the blood vessels. Now let's look at the other part. So when you have sickle cell disease, then in that scenario, it will become crescent or sickle shaped. So now the shape is something like this. In this scenario, if you again go back, in this scenario, it becomes very difficult for it to go through the blood vessel, unlike the previous scenario. And that's what happened in sickle cell. And once you do not have enough RBCs, you won't have enough oxygen in different parts of the body. You will feel tiredness. You will feel like sleeping all the time. So maybe if you feel like sleeping all the time, maybe you are suffering or you are having some variant of sickle cell disease, or RBC is not proper in your body. So you can even eat things which can increase RBC count in your body, right? So hope you understood what is happening in sickle cell disease. The shapes of RBCs are changing because of it is not getting transmitted to different blood vessels, and when there are lesser RBCs in your body, which is responsible for transporting, like passing oxygen among other things, you will feel dizziness, you will feel sleepy. So what are different types? Sickle cell disease exists in two forms. First is sickle cell trait, in which you will not exhibit any disease or symptoms. You will live normally. Second is characterized by symptoms, when the magnitude of sickle cell will increase. In this scenario, what you will have? You will feel again dizziness and all those things we'll talk about. Now, cause. The cause of sickle cell disease is a defective gene called sickle cell gene. So it's a genetic disorder. We are continuously talking about it. And what we have discussed, if my father, if my mother, both of them are having this particular gene, there's a very high probability that I will catch it. So a person will be born with sickle cell disease only if two genes are inherited, one from the mother and one from the father. So let's say my mother is infected or has that particular gene rather, sickle cell gene, my father does not, then there is a very less probability that I'll be having sickle cell. So symptoms, early stage, tiredness, swollen hands, later stage, severe pain, organ damage and infection, because again, you are having lack of oxygen because of the issue associated with RBCs. Treatment is either you do stem cell transplantation, you remove those sickle cell genes, or there are treatments which can reduce the symptoms. We can reduce the tiredness or the pain, which can lessen the complications, right? And prevalence of SCD, if we talk about sickle cell disease. So India has second highest disease burden. African countries are bearing the brunt of it, but 1 in 86 birth among scheduled tribe. And now we also know why tribal population are bearing the brunt of it, because they have this genetic disorder or mutation has happened as a reaction to malaria. So with higher rates in central, western and southern India. And government initiative, National Sickle Cell Anemia Elimination Program, or mission rather, we have focused on. And in that, what we have talked about, that we will eliminate sickle cell genetic transmission by the year 2047. But this is actually like 20-21 years ahead, if not more, right? And that is actually more. So we are talking about 23 years down the line. So, but still, this is a genetic disorder. It cannot go away like within few seconds or minutes. So it will take its time. And hopefully by 2047, we will not be having any more cases of sickle cell genetic transmission. So now we have done 5 articles. Now it's time for solving 5 prelims practice question and 1 means practice question. And I have told it again and again, and I will reiterate it now as well, that please post your marks in the comment section. Whatever you're getting out of 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, please post your marks in the comment section. So now if we talk about prelims practice question, the first question is in front of you, related to salt pan lands and coastal regulation zone. Interesting question, tricky question rather, tough question. So salt pan lands are classified under CRZ 1B, primarily allow activities, include ecologically sensitive areas. Please pay attention. This is a tricky question. This is a tough question. Even if you're getting it wrong, don't worry about it. If you are getting this particular question right, you can post it in the comment section that yes, sir, my marks is 4 by 5 and my first question is correct. Second is wrong. CRZ2 does not include ecologically sensitive areas. CRZ1 includes ecologically sensitive areas. Go and read CRZ1, 2, 3, 4, all of them, right? So just eliminate second, you will get the answer. The answer is B, 1 and 3 only. Even if you would have known that second is wrong, you would have got the answer. Let's come to second question. Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. And you can add Ayushman Bharat in the front. There are points written here. Pay attention. Sometimes what happens when we see such big questions, we feel like, oh my God, this is such a big question, I will get it wrong. No, that the bigger the question in UPSC, the easier they are. So focus on the keyword, focus on the things which you know that it is totally wrong. Like here, in the first statement, it's not covering primary health care. We have talked about it. It is covering only secondary and tertiary care. That means first statement is wrong. Eliminate it. Get the answer. Even if you know nothing about second and third, you will get the answer. The answer is C, 2 and 3 only. Let's come to third question. Recently launched Bio E3 policy by Government of India focuses on what or which of the following areas? Development of bio-based chemicals, provision or promotion of smart proteins, research in marine and space biotechnology, investment in fossil fuel-based technology. Do they focus on fossil fuel? Have they talked about fossil fuel? No. These 3 areas they are focusing on. Biotechnology is the keyword. So the answer is B, 1, 2 and 3. Now, National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, statements related to that. Pay attention here. Statutory body, yes. But is it established under Right to Education Act? No. Commission for Protection of Child Rights Act. That's what we have discussed. So eliminate 1. You are left with now B and D. Allahabad High Court declared Uttar Pradesh means Act, Madrasa Act, unconstitutional grounds of violating it. That is correct. So the answer is B, 2 only. Last prelims practice question. Sickle cell disease. Which of the following statement is correct? Caused by bacterial infection. It is a genetic disorder. Trait individual exhibit means if you have sickle cell, you can have like swelling, anemia, periodic episodes of extreme pain. That is correct. So B is the correct answer. It cannot be cured by antibiotics. The only thing which you can do is you do transplantation, you do all those things, but you can minimize the symptoms. You cannot cure it by antibiotics rather. If two individuals with sickle cell trait parry each other, the child is not at risk. Their child is at risk. If mother and father both have sickle cell genes, there is a very high probability that you will be catching that sickle cell gene. So now we are done with 5 prelims practice question. Please post your marks in the comment section, whatever you are getting, even if you are getting 0 out of 5. Now let's focus on the mains practice question. This particular question is about Madrasas, Indian society and social justice. They have played a key role in imparting religious education. But whether they are integrating modern education system with the traditional religious instructions or not, that is a question to ponder about. So critically analyze the role of madrasas in India's education system in the light of recent debate. What are the statements made by NCPCR? All these things you have to talk about here. So in intro, you can talk about what are madrasas, primary madrasa, secondary madrasa, all these things you can talk about here. And then in the body part, you will talk about the historical role, how they are transmitting Islamic knowledge, they're preserving the core tenets of Quran, Hadith, all these things. But then the issues, curriculum and quality of education. Is it getting compromised in madrasas? Are they not aligning themselves with the traditional education system, formal education system? How are they electing their teachers? What are the methods employed by the teachers? From where are they getting their money? Who are regulating them, or who is responsible for their functioning? All these are questions which are raised by NCPCR, and we need their answers. Legal and constitutional concern. RT is not covering it. Do it, or whether madrasas should be included under the ambit of RTE or not. Will it help madrasas or stifle their freedom? All these things we have to talk about. Need for reform and modernization. Modernization is the need of the hour. That's what Sir Syed Ahmad Khan also talked about rather when he was talking about his Aligarh movement. So do we need more reform now when it comes to madrasas? So again, a question which we need to think about. So what is the conclusion? Madrasas remain an important institution for religious instruction, but they must evolve to meet the demands of modern education, because we keep on talking about now the only thing which is constant in today's world is change. We have to continuously change ourselves, and madrasas are no exception to that. So that's it for today's DNA. If you like this particular video, do like, share and subscribe, and keep watching Narayana IAS Academy channel. Take care, be blessed, see you soon.